When Abbey died, one of the things that people often said to me was, "I can't imagine what you're going through." That's fair. Losing your child to an impaired driver is horrendous, and no one wants to imagine it. In giving my victim impact statement to the court, I needed to articulate exactly this: the impact of my daughter being killed. Get some tissues. This is not pretty. Every year, thousands of Canadians are injured or killed because someone chose to drive impaired. Behind each number is a name, a story, a family forever changed because someone chose to do something we all know to be dangerous, reckless, illegal, and frankly stupid. When you lose someone to impaired driving, you are deeply heartbroken and righteously angry, furious that their death was senseless and preventable. Why? Why do people still do this? Why are Canadian lives still being stolen? Are we really okay with this? Why do we continue to tolerate it? What will make this change? I'm your host, Amanda Bickell, and this is Livid, learning, insights, and voices on impaired driving. This podcast is about real stories, hard truths, and how through learning and honest conversation, we can move from anger to action and work toward a Canada free from impaired driving. It's time to be livid. Livid discusses impaired driving, traumatic loss, grief, and the justice system. Some content may be emotionally difficult, especially for those personally impacted by these issues, and so listener discretion is advised. The views shared on this podcast are personal and educational in nature and are not legal, medical, or professional advice. Where legal cases are discussed, details are shared responsibly and based on publicly available information or personal experience, and nothing shared here is intended to prejudice ongoing proceedings. Our goal is awareness, understanding, and change. On February 25th, 2026, I attended the sentencing hearing for the offender who pled guilty to driving impaired and causing the death of my daughter. 2.5 years after her death, I finally got to say publicly how what he did changed my life forever. My statement recounts my last moments with Abbey, my experiences with her death and celebration of life, much of my grief journey, memories of Abbey, and the impact that her loss has had on many of the people I love. It is sad. It is very personal. And this is your chance to think carefully about whether or not you really want to hear it. If you do choose to listen, please use it wisely. I'm entrusting you with it. I hope you never really know what this is like. But if by hearing this statement, you understand the consequences enough to never drive impaired, to never let anyone around you drive impaired, and to call 911 whenever you see someone driving in a way that makes you suspect they are impaired, then me sharing this and you listening to it, well, together we will have made the world just a little bit safer for everyone. This is the victim impact statement of me, Amanda Bickell, as read in court in Vancouver, British Columbia on February 25th, 2026. Abbey Bickell, my daughter, was killed violently, suddenly, and senselessly. And when she died, I began my life of traumatic grief, a grief that is complex and brutal in countless ways. I will suffer it for the rest of my life because I am her mother and I love her. To put such suffering into words is impossible. Everything seems like cliche or hyperbole. But as that is the task of a victim impact statement, I will try to convey what living a parent's worst nightmare is really like. I last saw Abbey alive on June 23, 2023. Her University of Guelph roommate, an international student from the Netherlands, was visiting BC for the first time, and Abbey was excited to share everything that she loved about her home. In the few short days we had together in Summerland, Abbey and her friends enjoyed all of her favorite summer activities: jet skiing, swimming at the beach, sitting around campfires, shopping, and eating at all her favorite spots. I had felt so honored to be asked to join them on their wine touring afternoon, even if it was just so they could have me as a sober driver. It was so much fun to be included, just to be around her. Abbey had a way of bringing more living into life than anyone I've ever known, and they certainly experienced each day of that trip to its fullest. After Summerland, Abbey and her friends headed down to the Lower Mainland, where Abbey was living, and where the Adventures in BC itinerary had some highlights yet to be fulfilled. Before leaving Summerland that morning, Abbey expressed that she was a little hesitant to go because she wanted more time to rest and recharge her social battery, so she was energized for the next part of the visit. While she loved hosting her friends and giving them the full experience of living on the West Coast, she was also mindful of her own needs and wanted to balance her social time with downtime. But Abbey was the kind of person who was committed to spending quality time with everyone special to her, and she always carved out time and space to be with them and ensure they felt special. So she stuck to the plan. Standing at the kitchen island, pouring coffee into travel mugs, filling water bottles, getting ready for them to go, she was quiet, hesitant. She sighed, slowly turned to look at me, and told me she wanted to stay. She felt tired. She wished she could spend more time with us, being looked after, relaxing, escaping in the peace of our farm. I wanted her to stay too. I could think of nothing more wonderful than spending time with her. We got so little of it then, with her living and working in the Lower Mainland in the summers and going to university in Guelph, Ontario the rest of the year. We didn't see her very often. And for me and her dad, each visit felt like a glorious gift. I felt so close to her in that moment, knowing that within this confident and capable woman who was living the fulfilling life that she had built was my little girl, still needing us, wanting time with mom and dad when things were a lot. I pulled her in for a hug, felt her curly hair press against my cheek, still damp from her shower and scented with her favorite hair products. She squeezed back just a little harder than usual as I said, "I wish you could stay too." I remember squeezing her so tightly, telling her I loved her so much and not to worry. She'd be back at the farm soon for that recharge. I watched her drive away, tears streaming down my face. "Please be safe. Look after yourself. I love you," I said to the taillights as she pulled away. It was always the same when either of my children would come to visit. I would always worry that something would happen, that this could be the last time I saw them, held them. But I would always pull myself together, as I did that morning, by reassuring myself that all mothers felt like this. I was being ridiculous. And then I reminded myself, she's a smart and responsible woman. She's going to be okay. You can't keep her here all the time. You raised her to be independent, and there she is, thriving, just as you hoped. She'll be back. On the morning of July 19, around 10:30, an RCMP officer came to our door. I figured that the visit was about something trivial, but he looked too serious. He didn't come past the threshold when I invited him in. He didn't accept a coffee when I offered. He didn't even close the door. After he'd confirmed my identity, he told me that Abbey had been killed in a vehicle collision that morning. As the words broke my heart, Abbey's dad was just approaching the front door where we stood. He had heard too. I watched my husband collapse to his knees on the ground and groan in agony. No, 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 no. As the shock of it all set in, I realized my worst fears had come true. We had lost our child. I realized I had held her for the last time. That morning in Summerland, when she hesitated to leave, that had been it. The last time I would see her smile and hear her tell me that she loved me. Abbey was gone, and she would never return to the farm to be with us. She was just gone. I was living my most terrifying nightmare. But now what? The idea of losing a child is so horrific that I could never entertain it, so I'd never thought about what would happen next. I discovered that it is just a seemingly endless series of excruciatingly difficult responsibilities and decisions. I agonized over everything, all of it charged with the pressure to get it right, because they were the last things I would get to do for her, and all of it was so grim. I started by calling our closest friends and relatives to break their hearts, to tell them that Abbey was dead. I will never forget the anguished, "Oh God, Amanda, no," that came from my dad's end of the call when I told him that his only granddaughter had been killed. My world had shattered, and it fell to me to shatter the worlds of all those I loved the most. We needed help from the RCMP and the Coast Guard to find our son. He was on a research vessel in the ocean somewhere off the coast of Vancouver Island, on an expedition that he had been so excited about, had worked so hard to be included in, and we needed him home. We had to ruin this experience and tell him he was now an only child, that his sister, whom he couldn't remember life without, was dead, just gone. Parents are supposed to protect their children, help them live out their dreams, support them in all they want to be and do, not crush them, destroy opportunities, and ruin things for them. But this was our assignment. We had to be the ones to tell him. We had one child dead, the other forever changed. We couldn't plan anything for the first few days. Already the criminal circumstances of Abbey's death were forcing us to sacrifice our needs and priorities for the process. I wanted to see her so badly. I needed to see her, but I wasn't allowed. There are rules and investigations that have to be respected, and so I had to wait. No one could tell me very much, and I was left to wonder, had she suffered? Had she been afraid? There was a video of the crash posted online just hours after it happened. I had to watch it, just to see if I could get any information, if I could maybe see her, maybe I could see if she was looking at the truck when it hit her, or confirm that she didn't see it coming. Maybe I could tell from watching the video of her being killed whether she had suffered. After watching it, I couldn't imagine that there was anything left of her. It looked as if she had been completely obliterated from the planet in that crash. So when the coroner called, all I wanted to know was whether I could see her and if she would look at all like herself. I couldn't get a straight answer. And so for days I was left to wonder, imagine the worst, unable to see her, to touch her, to say goodbye. Finally, on July 31st, nearly 2 weeks after she was killed, I got to see Abbey for the last time. Well, what was left. The funeral home did their best, but it had been a long time since she had died, and her body had been seriously damaged. She was dressed in the clothes that my mom and I had agonized over choosing for her. I ended up settling on what she had worn on our last fun day out together. That day I had been her sober driver. The funeral home staff had tried to do her makeup the way she liked, but she was a pro, and they could never have done it to suit her. Her naturally curly hair wasn't styled well either. You have to really know curly hair to get it right on the living. I can only imagine the challenges of styling for the dead. I regretted not being more forceful, not telling them I wanted to do it myself so that it was right. I looked at her and I thought, my poor baby girl. I reached into her casket to hold her hand. It was the only thing that really looked as it had when she was alive. I held her hand and I cried and cried and cried. Not wanting to be there, not wanting the reality that was registering to take hold, but not wanting to leave because I knew once I walked out of that door, once I let go of her hand, I would never be able to touch her, ever, ever again. We chose to have a celebration of life rather than a funeral. Without knowing her condition when we had to decide, we chose not to have a visitation or viewing. Abbey would not have wanted people to see her like that, and yet the choice meant her friends didn't get to say goodbye. Abbey never talked about dying. I had no idea what she would have wanted, so every decision was so hard. We chose a venue, a master of ceremonies, arranged a program, chose music and food and flowers. We collected pictures from throughout her life to share with guests. In a bleak reflection, I thought about how these were all the details for a wedding. Since she would never have one of those, I was going to make this celebration worthy of her. We hosted over 300 people. We welcomed nearly 500 people virtually through the live streaming of the event. Those who couldn't travel to be there joined us from all over the world, including throughout Europe, the UK, Japan, and Nairobi. Her loss was literally felt around the globe. I spoke at the service. I rehearsed and locked up my feelings enough so that I could be coherent. I did it for her. I wanted to do it well. to do everything I could to honor her. There is so little you can do for your dead daughter. In those first couple of weeks, I did everything I could to be there for her, for the people she loved and who loved her. I didn't sleep. I barely ate. And every night I sat in her room at her desk, amongst her treasured things, each a memory of a life so full, so meaningful. I wrote to her to tell her how I was trying to be strong for her and how sorry I was that this had happened, how she deserved so much better, and how I missed her so much. I crawled into her bed, careful not to disturb anything, so it remained just as she had left it the last time she slept there, where it smelled of her unique combination of perfume and scented candles and incense and hair products and her. I cried and fell apart until I would collapse into exhaustion, only to wake to the reality of the living nightmare a few hours later and keep going. And then, after I was able to collect Abby's ashes from the funeral home, we took her back to our farm, where she now rests, where she stays with us, where she is safe, and I hope at peace. And that is when the real grief and horror set in. Abbey was supposed to be in my life for the rest of my life. Since the moment we decided to have a second child, I have been considering her, planning for her, including her. I was never supposed to be without her. Now what? In the quiet of my empty house, the shock lifted, the adrenaline spent. I felt lost. I watched the impact of the collision on the video again, and I could see my whole life shattering. I imagined that at the moment of impact, the force was so great that the shock overwhelmed her. Just too much of her body was destroyed at once for anything to continue. I feel this way about my life now. Everything I knew, believed in, and trusted in the world was all destroyed with that impact. In that instant, my whole life was shattered into pieces, too many to comprehend, to keep track of, the destruction overwhelming. But that emotional fracturing didn't kill me. I am left to sort through the wreckage, forced into reviewing what is left of my life, piece by piece, and trying to put them together to continue meaningfully. Those pieces fall into 3 grief-stricken categories. First, the obliterated. Some pieces were simply obliterated, never to return, impossible to replace. Abbey is gone. Everything she was, everything she was going to be, everything we were going to be to each other, her role in our family, the remainder of my lifetime as her mother, the life of our family of 4, all of her was taken instantly. When she was taken from me, so much went with her. It isn't just her, but all of the things she was going to be and do, and all that we were going to share. All of that went too. I've lost my daughter, my only daughter, my feisty, stubborn, confident, just, and loving daughter. I've lost all of the wonderful people that she was going to introduce to our lives, all of the love that she brought to our home. I am tortured with this loss every day. We will never know what Abbey would have done in her life. We can't know if she would have married, become a mother, had a career, traveled the world. We only know that she will never do anything ever again. All of those lost possibilities haunt me when others around me are experiencing them. I didn't just feel the loss the day she died. I feel it every time anyone I know lives a life moment. So I feel it every day, everywhere. I can't attend a baby shower, a wedding, a graduation, or see others spending time with their children without feeling her loss. I feel angry that she was taken so senselessly, ashamed for the envy I feel as I watch others have what was stolen from me and empty, for there is such a big hole left where she should be. It's not just the big life events that sting. Everyday things haunt me too. Each night I take off my rings and put them into a little blue and white dish that she gave me as an unexpected gift. It was something she saw and fell in love with and wanted me to have, just because. I'll never get another one of those. No more little tokens of thoughtfulness or love from her. I don't get her daily Be Real photos anymore. I'll never get another call just to chat or one to counsel through something that was upsetting her. I never get to share a recipe or a funny meme or shop for her or hug her or hear her laugh or see her smile or be the target of her ever so expressive eye roll. These are just some of the things that are just gone. Big things, small things. But every day there are things that are missing and can never be, but should be. The grief of her death is overwhelming and ubiquitous. I will never again feel joy alone, that is. All joyful moments are accompanied by the insatiable ache of missing her, because she should be here to be doing the joyful thing with us, or I should be able to text or snap or call to tell her about it. Even all of the happy memories of her are accompanied by the sadness of knowing that there will never be another new memory of her. I can never hear her tell the stories of those memories and hear her laugh. Grief also came with guilt of all the things I wish I had done differently. Abbey and I shared many passionate arguments, and not all of them had left us for the better. We loved each other fiercely, but we didn't always see eye to eye. We were just growing into a new phase of our relationship as adults, and while the transition could be bumpy at times, we both saw it heading towards something more mature and long-lasting. We never get to see that through. We will never get to have the relationship that we labored for as she was growing up. For months, I tortured myself with an endless string of if-onlys, dwelling on thoughts of what I could have or should have said or done for things to be different between us. Better, while I still had the chance. But that chance to do that work, to see it through, that was obliterated too. Second, the broken. What wasn't completely obliterated is broken. Only with painstaking care and determination to take a new perspective can I learn to live with this new reality. These things are still here, but I can't make them right again. They will always be shadowed by the loss of Abbey. Their salvage value is dependent upon me accepting all that has been lost and freely incorporating grief into my identity. This is proving exhausting. I cannot say goodbye to anyone I love without panic setting in. It happened to her. It can happen to my son, my husband, my parents, any family and friends. Anyone I love at any time can cross paths with someone whose actions will take their life for no reason. There is no consolation from this fear. My old rationalities don't work anymore. They were proven wrong. So with each goodbye, tears stream down my face. I sob uncontrollably. I shake. I know exactly what can happen, and there is absolutely nothing I can do about it. I just have to accept it. The risk is real. I am powerless. No one is safe. I live in fear now. Our family is broken. We are a family of 3 when there used to be 4. How do we find joy when every time we are together, it is glaringly obvious that we are all thinking of her, missing her, wishing this hadn't happened to us, wondering why? Why us? Every holiday, all of our memories and our fun traditions are missing her. Every significant thing that happens to us now will have merely the shadow of her. She should still be here with us. I am still a mother, but I am a bereaved mother now. I watch my son doing all of the wonderful things that he's working for and engaging in, and I can't help but think of her. I so admire him and appreciate him for all he is, all while realizing my other child, our Abbey, should be here too and isn't. It's so unfair to him. I feel like I'm betraying her to not at least acknowledge that she should have had the chance to live these experiences too. I worry for him. He's now an only child, the only grandchild on both sides of our family. He's so precious, and yet I don't want him to feel like he's bearing the burden of all of our collective hopes and love for her that no longer has anywhere else to go. That isn't his to bear. It has changed how we are with each other. Throughout our 29 years of marriage, my husband and I have built a life and a family together. We've been considering each other, all 4 of us, in every decision we've made together. We had a plan. We had contingencies. We worked hard. We made sacrifices. We tried our best. We never anticipated this. We don't know what to do with this. Everyone grieves in their own way, and the 2 of us are doing it very, very differently. Our grief has tested us in ways I could never have imagined. Our marriage will never be the same. My chosen family is broken too. Scott, the driver of the car on that fatal day, is more than just Abby's friend and coworker. Their employer, Ronan, is more than just her boss. For over a decade, the Pfeiffers have been our chosen family. Scott and Abbey grew up together. We called them swiblings, as he was as close to a brother to her as could be imagined. They spent 5 to 6 hours a day together during their many years as members of the same competitive swim team. Scott's parents, Heidi and Mark, partners in Ronan, are some of our closest friends. Heidi's like the sister I never had. Mark, so much like my brother, I can hardly believe my fortune at having them both in my life. We've always been there for each other, as emergency contacts, to help with anything anyone needed, to support and lend a patient ear when things were hard, and to be quick to join in each other's celebrations. We've traveled together and spent holidays together, just as an extended family would. Upon learning that Abbey had been killed, my first question to the RCMP officer was, "What about Scott? Did we lose him too?" This happened to all of us. We had all envisioned that extended family growing together, not getting smaller. We can't see each other without remembering all that has been lost. And although we all know that none of the fault for what has happened falls on any of us, our time together is always strained because she is gone and Scott was there. And we have all lost so much and all feel so badly for each other, but we can't fix it. I know that I am changed. I will never be the same again. All of my friends and family who knew me before Abbey was killed have lost Abbey, and they have lost me too. All of those relationships have changed because I will never be that person again. For some, that change was too much. I am the personification of a parent's worst fears. To look at me, engage with me, hear me, is to admit to yourself that this could happen to you too, and some people just can't bring themselves to face that reality. Even on my best days, I'm difficult to be around because I bring that very uncomfortable vulnerability to the fore. Abbey was an entirely random victim. Her death was unexpected and sudden. It is terrifying for others to acknowledge that possibility for themselves. My control over my ever-present sadness is unpredictable. I can never know when something will hit me. A song, a turn of phrase, a seemingly random object. Almost anything can spark a memory, and in these times, when I remember her, I battle to balance the joy for having had the memory and the anguish that I will never have a new memory of her, and too often the emotional labor overcomes me and I start to weep. I have become comfortable with tears and my grief. They are part of everyday life for me now. But I have learned that the discomfort created by this weeping is too much for many to tolerate. Isolation is replacing these relationships. I have learned to brace myself for things that will unexpectedly trigger a wave of grief. Music, a love for which Abbey and I shared, where we spent car rides singing at the top of our lungs, can now feel like a grief trap. I never know when it will hit me. Like the time Only the Good Die Young was playing at the pub the first night I thought I might be able to go out with friends after she was killed. It can be a sad song, or a song she loved, or a song that was playing while we did something amazing together. Enjoying music together, new and old, is something I'll never get to do with her again. I'll never get to see how her tastes evolve and what songs bring her joy and build new memories in her life. The same happens with TV, movies, and books, all things I used to enjoy immensely. They tell other people's stories, and I struggle to be strong or brave enough to hear them anymore. It isn't just themes of loss or impaired driving that overwhelm me. It's also joyful stories of mothers and daughters or adventurous women who share her characteristics. At first, I couldn't bear these things at all. These things that were once a distraction or an entertaining escape are now fraught with the potential to launch an unwelcome wave of grief. The best I can do, if I feel particularly resilient, is try, but I often shut it off or set it down. I'm working on being grateful for the memories that all of these things trigger. Sometimes I recall moments I thought I had forgotten, and I try to imagine that they are little visits from her spirit, reminding me of the life we shared and the love that can never be taken from me. Some days I can do it, but some days I just can't. Some days I can hold the broken pieces together, but many days I don't have the energy. Because managing this grief takes so much of me, I have less energy, less patience for everything and everyone else in my life. I'm less productive, less resilient, and easily overwhelmed by everyday stressors. I now understand what is meant by crippling grief, and although it is not an official diagnosis, I feel I have been literally disabled. I am not able to be nor to do what I could before her death. When Abbey was killed, I was preparing to teach my next semester at the university. Since 2002, I have taught post-secondary business, most recently strategy and organizational wisdom in an undergraduate Bachelor of Business Administration program. The best part of the work was mentoring students and helping them to realize their life's goals and dreams, to help them understand themselves and their role in making our world better. The program is grounded in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and the learning outcomes are about bringing good into the world in a responsible way that supports business, community, and the environment in equal measure. I didn't return to work to teach that fall as planned. I availed myself of the province's 2-year unpaid leave respecting the death of a child. But as the 2 years were coming to a close and the legal process continued, I realized I couldn't, in good conscience, return. I am not in a position to support students in the way they deserve to be mentored and supported. Working with young people with bright minds and a passion to change the world for the better reminds me of my daughter, who also saw herself as a change maker. I cannot keep my grief at bay or maintain dedicated focus on my teaching and students. My mind wanders to the person I've lost and the young person this world will never get to see flourish and make a difference in other people's lives. And so on top of everything else, I have now also lost my career and the many benefits that came with my role as an educator. Third, the undamaged. The third category is for pieces that remain unchanged. There's nothing here. Everything in my life was either obliterated or is broken and forever changed. No matter how well I reconstruct my life from the pieces I can salvage, it will be smaller than it should be because she is gone and everything about her is gone and I can't ever be whole again. I'm left to do my best with the incomplete life of traumatic grief. Abbey isn't the only source of grief from this tragedy. My sense of justice and fairness in the world also died the day she was killed. Her death was entirely unnecessary, unnatural, and that is not only tragic but offensive to me. I was naive before. I believed in fairness and reason. While I can see that these things do exist in the world, I now know poignantly that they are precarious and unreliable. This vile reality has me feeling I failed Abbey because I taught her to believe in the certainty of these fallacies as well. Abbey had good friends, but she was not one of the popular kids. She was bullied throughout grade school. She was picked on for having acne since grade 3, for coming to school without makeup and with wet hair because she'd come directly from swimming practice, and for being too muscly because she dedicated herself to competitive swimming in her early teens. She was ostracized for standing up for other kids that were being bullied too. She got good grades in school, but she had to work really, really hard to get them. Abbey had struggled to find where she fit in. She held true to her values and spoke up for them, no matter who was made uncomfortable in the process. And from that, she learned to be empathetic, kind, to set firm boundaries, and speak up when necessary. She also suffered the social costs of standing up, but chose to endure these rather than betray her principles. Abbey had learned to be accountable for herself, to own her mistakes, and to learn from them. When she was really little, about 7, she went through a stage of what became known in our family as Abbey apologies. She would do something that hurt someone, as children do, and her apology would be, "I'm sorry, but," where she would qualify the apology with some reason she wasn't responsible. "I'm sorry, but I was tired. I was angry. I was hungry. I had a bad day at school. The dog wouldn't sit with me. My friend was mean to me," etc. All of these were ways she was trying to minimize her culpability for her wrongdoing, her wrong choices, her mistakes. We worked really hard together for her to learn that despite what wrong or suffering she was experiencing, it was not a license nor an excuse to hurt others, and that she could address her feelings and problems in a constructive way without doing more harm. She learned to do this and expected the same from others. It meant that she grew and matured into the wonderful person she became. She regularly called people out for expecting others to accommodate such entitlement too. It was part of what made her a fierce friend, someone you could trust. I was proud of her for this. But now I struggle, remembering all of those hard lessons, the tears, the frustration and fury, and all my little girl went through, trying to become someone who was responsible for herself. I struggle because I wonder if it was really worth it, if I was right to try to hold her to these values. I find myself wishing that I could take some of that expectation away so that her very short life didn't include so much strife. Because it turned out that despite all of her growth, none of it was enough to save her. She was killed anyway. It turns out that not everyone believes in these things or holds themselves to them, and she became a victim of someone else's choices through no wrongdoing of her own. It doesn't seem fair that this is how she died. On the day Abbey was killed, she was in a great place. She had set her mind to finishing her degree and was determined to complete what she'd started. She had figured out that it was food allergies that were causing her acne and had conquered it through determination and the self-control to do what was best for her health, even though it was difficult socially and meant resisting the impulse of short-term indulgences. The last picture she sent me, a Be Real, is of a smiling, blemish-free face full of joy and confidence. She spent the last night of her life with her close friends, but left before she wanted to because she had to work in the very early morning and knew she needed a good night's sleep. I wish she had been just a little bit more irresponsible that evening, stayed out late and overslept. If she had, she could still be here with us. That doesn't seem fair. Abbey was looking forward to spending the day at work with Scott. They had reconnected upon her return from university, and she was enjoying catching up with him. Instead of this joyful day, Scott witnessed her death. Abbey loves Scott dearly and would never want him to suffer as he has from her passing. She would be furious about this and what he's had to endure. All of that is also unfair. Since Abbey was killed, people have tried to console me. Nothing fits. The usual things that people say when a loved one dies don't help in her case. She hadn't lived a long life. She hadn't struggled with a painful disease and was no longer suffering. Working as a rescue technician, I had even prepared for at least she died doing what she loved. But that wasn't what took her. And as far as being in a better place, there is nowhere else Abbey would want to be than with us, alive and living her best life, surrounded by her friends and family. Someone told me that she was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But no, Abbey wasn't doing anything wrong and wasn't somewhere she didn't belong. She was exactly where she was supposed to be, doing exactly what she was supposed to be doing. But it would appear that doing nothing wrong still cost her her life. No good came from her death. She didn't save anyone else. She didn't get to be brave or heroic or sacrifice herself for someone she loved. Abbey was a regular blood donor and had wanted to be an organ donor, but her body was so destroyed that we couldn't even have that good come from this. There is no good reason why she is dead. There is no silver lining. Abbey is a victim. She would hate that. This all feels so unfair. She would hate that too. Abbey had a life, her life, and it was hers to decide how to live it. She's been telling me that since she could talk. I believe the quote from 2-year-old Abbey was, "I'm the boss of me." So I'm confident that I can say she would be really angry to find that the choices of what to do with her life and how to live her life were stolen from her, that her life was stolen from her. I carry so much anguish that I am powerless to fix this for her. She deserved so much better. Abbey is always with me. I wake each morning from the bliss of her visits in dreams to the painful reality that she is gone. I've turned to journaling to try to put my agony somewhere safe, where it can be acknowledged, where I can set it down and not have to carry it. Each entry begins, "Dear Abbey." I start most days with a couple of hours of writing to her, telling her all of the things she's missed, or sharing something with her that I think she would want to know I figured out, or asking her to help me find my way, to help me find strength. I've filled 14 journals so far, about 350,000 words and counting. Words she will never read, conversations we will never get to have. It's been only just over 2 years since her life was taken. My journals are a small window into all of the things I would have shared with her, and I am only one person. Imagine what all of the others she knew and loved and would have met would have to share with her. She has lost so much. I have lost so much. The world has lost so much. That is what it is like to be living a mother's worst nightmare. I will never experience pure joy again. I will never say goodbye to a loved one without being gripped by the primal fear that it could be the last time, and I will have to endure another cataclysmic shattering. I trust in nothing. Life is unfair, and I don't know what to do with that. I carry the weight of days that have asked too much of me and taken too much from me. Carrying this traumatic grief is exhausting, and I must do it for the rest of my life at the expense of other things I could do or would have done. My life is smaller than it should be. I will never be whole again. That is the impact of the killing of Abbey Mackenzie Bickell, my daughter, my baby girl. This episode was written and produced by Amanda Bickell, music by Emily Gordon, all rights reserved. If you'd like to learn more about me and Abbey, or find other episodes or references related to the content of the podcast, go to our website at www.lividpodcast.ca. You can also find the Livid podcast on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and in the streaming services where you have your other podcasts. Be sure to follow and subscribe to hear when the next episode is available, to get developments on Abbey's case and find out what I've learned next. Thanks for listening.